Welcome to Successful Parenting, where we, Jackie Rue and Robin Choquette, share practical skills for families to build resilience and healthy connections. As practicing professionals and parents ourselves, we hope this podcast is a resource for parents to grow, reflect, and learn more about themselves and their children. Our approach is simple, tangible, and most importantly, we lead with compassion for the integrity of the families we serve. This podcast should not be taken as medical advice and is intended for informational purposes only. We love our work and we can't wait to watch families gain confidence and open themselves up to new ways of successful parenting.
Good afternoon, Robin. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you today, Jackie?
I am doing good. I'm excited to learn from our guest expert today. And this is a topic I don't know a ton about, but I am super excited to learn about.
Yeah, me too. Did a little research on it. I do have several friends that their children have passed and they have donated organs. I don't really know much about it, so I'm super excited for our conversation today with Holly. Holly not only is a special ed teacher, she's also a respite caregiver and she's a travel vlogger. She's got a lot of different things that she does. Sounds very interesting. Actually know her because she is my next door neighbor and our dogs bark on the fence between us and they are wagging their tails and they just want to play with one another. So it's a lot of fun meeting Holly and talking to her over the fence. And I am super excited. Welcome, Holly.
Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Well, why don't you, if you don't mind, just share a little bit about you and your journey and just kind of your story.
Okay. I currently am a 40-year-old school teacher, respite caregiver, vlogger now, and my life has completely changed, flipped upside down, literally overnight 6 years ago. It was March of 2017. I, like every school teacher known to man, gets everything from the kids. So you have
Yes.
colds, you have sinus infections. We just go and we keep working with them. We try not to go to the doctor for every little ailment because you don't want to get hooked on the antibiotics or to where the antibiotics don't work. So I had the sinus infection. It lasted for a little while. And finally I was like, okay, it's been around for like a month. Let's go into the doctor and see what they can give me. They gave me an antibiotic for it. I took it. A day later, I just start having this reaction. And I was like, this is kind of odd. This has never happened before. It was a new antibiotic, so I was like, okay, I'll just stop taking it. Well, then I went and later that night, I woke up with pressure in my chest. My heart felt like it was beating out of my chest.
Oh, wow.
So as any person is ever instructed to do, rush to the ER.
Yeah, that had to be so scary.
Yeah, probably shouldn't have driven myself, but 3 a.m. on a Sunday, I just did what I thought I needed to do. So rushed to the closest hospital. Again, probably wasn't my best choice, but closest hospital, need to get help. So I go in, I'm 34 at the time, and they say, oh, you're 34, you're female, we'll do a few little tests, but we're just going to send you home on a pain pill. It's all in your head. It's anxiety.
Wow.
I said, oh, okay, well, this has never happened before, but maybe you guys are right. Maybe it's in my head. So for 10 days, I went on and said, okay, it's in my head. Even though when I try to lay down, I pass out, it's just anxiety. So I kept working. And if anybody knows special ed teaching, it is like a track show all the time. You're running from kid to kid and down the hall to catch them. And I was just exhausted. So finally went to my doctor and I said, okay, I know they said it's in my head, but there's something really, really wrong. And she goes, yeah, you just don't look like yourself. And I said, okay, so it's not all in my head? And she's like, no, I don't think it is. She goes, there happens to be a cardiologist visiting across the hall. Go see what he says. So I walk over just to kind of talk with him and see what he says, maybe get a referral. And all he says is 911 now.
Wow.
Well, who needs 911? Because I just worked all day. I taught. I'm fine. I'm CPR trained and all that. Do you need help? And he goes, it's for you. And I said, oh, okay. So they rushed me in the ambulance to KU Med Center here in Kansas City. And that night I found out that my heart was functioning at 5 to 10%.
Wow.
I should have never walked in. They said that I should have come in with a toe tag. Just because I had been dismissed because I was young, female, it does happen. So listen to your body. The best they can guess is that I had idiopathic cardiomyopathy, which is they really don't know what caused my heart to start failing, but their best guess is that the sinus infection went through my bloodstream, settled in my heart, and killed it. So literally overnight, completely changed. They went and they stabilized me in the hospital for a week because me being me goes, you did the test wrong. Come in complete denial. I'm like, all I do need is a little bit of sleep and I'll be fine. And they were like, no, this is more than just a little sleep and rest. And I was like, okay, well, give me the medicine and I'll be fine after a while. So for a week, they stabilized me, and then I got sent home on portable IV. So I actually went back to teaching for like a week and a half on a portable IV with a medicine that makes your heart beat. So
Wow.
that was just a whirlwind, but I was like, it can't be me. I'm too young, I'm female, all of the things that you kind of hear. After that week and a half, I came to the conclusion that they were right. Something is really wrong. So I go to my checkup appointment and they said, are you throwing in the towel? And I was like, oh yeah, there's something wrong. Let's figure this out. So that night I got admitted into the ICU where they added some more medications just to kind of stabilize me and to keep me going for as long as I needed to until I got my donor heart. So literally overnight change. And then spent the whole time in the ICU. And from diagnosis to transplant was only 8 weeks long. I moved quickly through the process, but I was that sick.
Well, and I'm guessing you had to be lucky enough that there was something available to transplant, right? Correct?
Correct. And in that, there's a whole bunch of different criteria. It is not like you see on TV and the movies and all that. And I think that's my biggest gripe with, I love that they are showing organ donation, but it doesn't move that quickly. That first week when they were stabilizing me before I had come home to go back to teaching, they did a solid 3 days of testing. And that's from 3 in the morning until 1 in the morning. It's solid testing. You have to do MRIs. You have to do blood work. You have to do like urine tests to make sure that like your kidneys are all functioning and there's nothing hiding in there. A solid 3 days of testing just to go and list all the criteria that is required for a donor organ.
Wow.
I'm sure this is a difficult conversation for you, but what are your thoughts in terms of how to start conversations about organ and tissue donation with children, with family members? How do you typically bring this topic up?
I bring it up because they usually see my scar, and it totally depends on the age of the child and just kind of their intellectual level and how they can grasp things and what are triggers for them. So the easiest way for me to kind of start is when you're driving around town and you see the blood donation centers or like the little like pop-ups that they do. That's the easiest way because it's a non-threatening way of you're just getting blood. It's just like a shot. It's more seen in society. So that's kind of like the first stepping stone of, oh, someone can give blood and they can save 4 lives or more now with the platelets and all that. That way, they don't see the death side of organ donation. They see the living side, which is also part of organ donation now with the living donors with kidneys, but it's just not as threatening. So you're like, oh, this is the process of the blood donation. Oh, but you can also do it with organs. So that's when you can get into the living kidney donors. And then once they've kind of grasped that, then you can move into the donation after death.
Okay.
There is a great resource for kids, and it's actually from a living kidney donor, and it's called Howl the Owl, and it's a book series, and it's amazing at going and saying the different processes of organ donation. So like the living donation, the different organs, and then why it's important or like how it helps others.
Howl the owl.
Howl the Owl.
Thank you. Okay. Listeners, we'll definitely put this in our definition, so check that out. So when my children became the age of getting their driver's license, I did talk and just said, hey, I'm an organ donor and put that out there. But at what age, developmental stage, do you think having the conversation with children is appropriate?
I personally started really young just because it's an everyday part of my life, especially me like popping my medicines every 12 hours and things like that. With I teach middle school, and like my 6th graders are able to go and kind of grasp that concept. I have talked to younger ones, but we just kind of talk about how others can live after others pass away. I call, with those younger groups, I call my donor heart my angel heart, just because it was kind of my angel that came and saved me after they passed away. And it kind of like helps a few of them grasp it. You just have to kind of gauge it to the age and kind of each child. I know when I was going through the process of needing my donor heart, when I was on the portable IV at school, I teach autism, and my students were completely afraid of doctors at that time. So how we described it was the movie Cars, because they loved that movie. Miss Holly was Lightning McQueen, and I blew my engine, my heart. And I needed to wait for a new engine to come through. So we were waiting for the factory to have a new heart or a new motor come in. And it was so funny, like how they grasped that. They grabbed onto it, because after my staff went in the day that I got my transplant and said, Miss Holly got her new heart, she has her new motor, all my kids got so excited. And they're like, she can go backwards now. I guess when you have a new motor, you can go faster, but you just kind of have to go on what their comfort level is. Because if I would have said, I'm going to the doctor, they're going to put a new heart in me, I'm going to have surgery, my students would have completely shut down. But in finding the Cars theme or something like that, or the angel heart, they're kind of more open to talking about it. But it's a continual conversation, and it just kind of has to evolve on when they grasp the lesser parts, and then just kind of building upon that.
Okay.
There's also a lot that, I'm interested in about just the organ and tissue donation list. Can you tell us a little bit about that list, if you don't mind, and share what it's like for you to be on the list, or for someone to be on the list, what that experience is like?
Yes, it is a very complex process. Like I said, during the first week when I was being stabilized, they did all the tests for like my heart size, my vessel sizes, all that kind of thing. They input all of this information, and depending on what organ you're needing, they input all of that information into the database, and then they put you on the list. Now, the list has changed since I got my organ donation. It changed a few years ago just to kind of meet the current needs and just to, I guess, organize it a little better. It's like they put you in at stages. So when I started, I was at like a level C. And then when I got admitted into the hospital full time on all the medications, I moved up to the A group. Now it's by numbers and by letters, but you are placed on the list depending upon the severity of your case, like how much you're needing the organ. Can you be on medications at home? Are you inpatient? Things like that. And it's a huge process. It's a national list. And actually, there's an international one too. But you have to get into location. Here in the Midwest, we have a lot easier time finding matches on the list and all that, because we can go from every direction. And it's kind of like we're centrally based. Now, if you're up in Alaska or somewhere like that, it's harder. So your list is narrowed down of the possible matches. Again, they've kind of changed it in the last couple of years to kind of clarify that and to not give advantages to certain areas as much, but it's just logistics that certain organs only last so long during transport. Being on the list as a donor, that goes if you're in an accident, somehow you are declared legally brain dead. They will go in, if you give consent, they will put you on the list. Then the donor themselves go through all the testing that I had to do as a recipient. They have to go through to find all the sizes, the blood matches, any possible diseases, infections, cancers, anything like that. They go through all of that testing also to find the perfect match. It's based on at least like 15 different factors. Body size, gender, blood type, all these different things. So like when Hollywood shows that there's a car accident and there just happens to be someone that needs a kidney in the same ER, that very, very, very seldom happens. Because for 3 days, the donor is having to go through all this testing while they're being kept alive on life support. So oftentimes the families, it's a very difficult process because they know that their loved ones are passing away. They know that they are brain dead, but they're having to be kept alive in order to find the perfect matches of donor capabilities. So I can only imagine the grief that's happening during that time, because they do not tell a recipient that there is a possible organ until all of those tests have been done, compatibility has been done, because there's just so many different factors that can rule it out.
Wow.
So it is a long process. The list is huge. There is one person added to the recipient or like needs an organ list every 9 minutes.
Wow.
We're here for almost 18 minutes. 2 people have already been listed.
Wow.
It is amazing how fast people get added to this list. But at the same time, 17 people a day die needing an organ because there are not enough organ donors.
9 minutes, someone is added in 17 minutes, did you say?
17 a day, 17 people a
Okay.
day die on the list.
Wow.
Just the statistics are amazing, and they're constantly changing depending upon the need. There are times of the year where there are more donors available, and that just happens to be from accidents, especially like during motorcycle season. When the weather's nice, there's more motorcycle accidents. So there are more that pass away in that way. So while it's bad to say that we have busy seasons, it definitely is. If there's like a huge snowstorm, icy weather, that makes the donor rate go a little higher just because of all the accidents. But you never know how a person becomes a donor. It could be that they had an ailment that they knew they were going to pass away, so they've been kept on life support, or they pass away in the hospital and other organs are okay to be used for donation. But others, it's the accidents. The increase in drug use has really increased the donor availability. If they overdose and they seek medical attention, like medical attention arrives fast enough, they are able to save those organs, even though they're declared brain dead. So
Wow.
never know how a person becomes a donor. And I think as being a recipient that doesn't know my donor, I kind of have to understand that you don't know how they became a donor or how they came to be and what the parents and family had to go through. So you just kind of have to say, okay, but I'm glad that they made the decision to donate during their worst day.
Yeah. And I know those honor walks
Oh my
are
God.
amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have luckily been like visiting KU or whatever places. There's another, St. Luke's here in Kansas City is another donor center. When they've done one of those honor walks, and it is just amazing. Everyone that's available from the hospital lines the hallway to the surgical suite, and they literally march or push the bed of the donor down the hallway, and it is absolutely amazing.
A lot of people will post those up on YouTube. Listeners, if you don't know about those, it is, it's emotional watching those and seeing loved ones. And at the same time, I think there is this sense of joy as they know that someone else will be receiving. And it means someone else will have their life continued. And it is a pretty amazing thing to witness and be a part of. You know, there's so much information out there, and so many of us really don't know or understand. I would imagine, Holly, there's a lot of myths out there and people just don't understand. Are there any common myths that you think our listeners might have heard of and you want to help clarify those?
Yes, there are more myths than truths, I think, in just my journey. Of course, I really wasn't educated prior to becoming a recipient, but once you're there and you're in it, you hear all of the myths. But one would be like certain religions don't accept either donating or receiving, and that has become untrue. There are some religions where you need to go and talk to the head of the religion or like the pastor kind of thing to get special clearance, but all major religions go and say it is okay to donate and accept now. And then along with that, culturally, there are certain cultures in society that have a like past with medical interventions, of kind of being the test dummies for things. And I hate to use that, but that's what it was. So they don't want to put on their driver's license or sign up for the list because they think if they are in a certain cultural category and they put that on there, that they will kind of be sought after to have an accident or something like that. That's not true. Like when you're on the list, it doesn't even tell what ethnic group you're in. You're just signing a list and you're saying, yes, I choose to donate. And this is the organs that I would like to donate, or these are the ones I don't want donated. Your culture and your ethnicity is not put on there. And then the other one would just be that it's a quick process that anyone can kind of match it. No, it's a very lengthy process, both on the donor side and on the recipient side.
Wow. And I know a lot of listeners today may be, even interested if they're not already an organ donor. If someone today wants more information or has decided that they want to become an organ donor, what do you suggest that they do, or where do they start?
The most readily available is the driver's license. Make sure you just check that box of yes, you want to be an organ donor. That is stored in the state system. So if you are in an accident, you get sent to the hospital, they know that you are a donor. The next one is you can go to a website registerme.org, and that's part of Donate Life webpage, but that is a national database where you can go and fill it out on the internet, and it's just kind of flagged in the main database, especially with medical personnel, that if you are brought into an ER, they identify you, instantly comes up that you're an organ donor. And then the main one is just talk with family and friends and let your wishes be known. Hey, if I pass away in a car wreck, will you make sure that my body's donated to the fullest extent possible? Or just, hey, I've thought about organ donating. I think that's something I'm interested in. Just so that your family knows, because even when you're signed up, they're going to go and ask your family once you've been declared legally brain dead if they wanted to donate. And if your family doesn't know, oftentimes they're just like, no, because it's in the heat of the moment. Mm-hmm. But have that conversation, let them know that that is something that you are interested in. It's a bad way to say it, but a lot of times in the donation world, there's memes and everything of you can't take it with you, which means after you pass away, you're getting buried, cremated, whatever way, you can't take your organs with you. But there are people here on earth that really, really need them to live everyday life. Don't take them with you.
I like that.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And listeners, we will put Holly's sharing those links and information. We'll definitely be putting that in our description so that if you're interested, just click on those links and it can give you more information to be able to become a part of helping save someone's life. Well, Holly, thank you so much for coming and sharing today. I really appreciate it. I think this is a topic that families definitely do need to discuss, and there needs to be conversations in families so everyone understands wishes and kind of understanding what's going on in the world today, and helping, as communities, being there for one another, I think is so important. We are at the point of asking our 3 questions. Now you can choose to answer 1, 2, or all 3.
I'm all 3. That's fine.
1 is, what did you do as a child or teenager that would drive your parents crazy? Number 2, what is the biggest difference between children and teenagers today and when you grew up? And number 3, what does successful parenting mean to you?
Right. So the first one of what did I do to drive my parents crazy? Probably a multitude of things. Things that stand out to me. I was big into movies and music and all that, and I still am. Anytime we would have a conversation or whatever, I would start talking in movie or music quotes, and then I would stop and pause and be like, what movie is that from? And my mom's like, ugh. And I still do it. Like, we were on vacation last week and I did it. And she goes, you're 40 years old and you're still doing this. Yes. So I kept them on their toes with that. The biggest difference from when I was growing up, and I'm seeing this from a teacher side and just as an adult side, it's the respect. And it's respect for themselves and it's respect for others. And that could be their peers, the adults, just a lack of respect, doing things that harm their bodies, doing things that harm other people's bodies, feelings, respect. I really wish more of that came back.
Yeah.
And then the successful parenting, while I am not a parent, I say I'm an 8-hour parent, but I have them for 8 hours and then I send them to their next parent. It's working as a team, and that's the parents, the teachers, the medical professionals, co-parenting. We all need to work together to make it consistent so that we're preparing children to be as independent as possible on all aspects.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that and connecting with the schools and parents joining with the schools. We think that's so important, and that just that collaboration and supporting the child. And it becomes a team unit when we do that.
Yes.
Well, and I think even like you said, starting the conversations early with children so that then this becomes something that they just automatically think about or do or understand. And I think the more we do talk about it when children are younger as a family, it also helps shape our children in terms of, some of those characteristics that we all want our children to have as parents, right? Empathetic, caring, giving back to the community. And we hear that from parents all the time, that those are some of their values and their hopes for their family. And I think this is just such a great way to display some of those characteristics.
Definitely.
Those family values. Well, Holly, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and have a great day. And have a great day, Robin.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us, and make sure to subscribe and like us to catch our next episode, where we will take you on a journey to find new ways of successful parenting.